Morning joint pain relief foods for seniors, natural anti-inflammatory diet. Hello my friends. Who among us has never experienced this feeling, right? Every morning when I wake up, before I can fully open my eyes, I can clearly feel the pain quietly creeping into every joint. My knees creak every time I lift my legs out of bed. My back is as stiff as a board of wood. Some days I have to sit still for a few minutes, rubbing my hands together before I dare to stand up to pour water. But honestly, it's not because I'm lazy to exercise, but it's just that even if I exercise, I can't do it if I start every morning like this. I remember when I was young, my grandparents used to say, when you're old, you have to endure back and knee pain. But as time goes on, I realize that it's not necessarily like that. There are people who are a dozen years older than me who still walk regularly every morning, play pickleball in the afternoon, and don't complain about their knee and hand joints. So why do I have pain? Is it because of my age? Or is it because I'm not eating properly? That question made me start paying more attention to what I eat every day. Actually, age does have an impact, because as we age, the cartilage that protects our joints becomes thinner, the synovial fluid also decreases, and the soft tissues around the joints become less flexible. But the interesting thing is, there are many foods that can help reduce inflammation and strengthen bones and joints. It's not true that you have joint pain when you get older. Your body is like a garden. If properly cared for, it will continue to bloom and bear fruit, even in the autumn of life. In this video, we will explore together dishes and foods that are easy to find and easy to prepare, but have the ability to support the knee, shoulder, wrist, and back joints very well. These things are not medicine, not a miracle drug, but if you persevere and understand them correctly, they can greatly reduce the feeling of pain every morning when you wake up. I'll share each dish in detail, with scientific evidence and real-life experience, and I hope you'll stick around until the end, because I'll save the most effective and surprising dish for last. It's the one my Houston orthopedist recommended I eat every day. Okay, let's get started. The first dish I want to invite you to pay attention to sounds incredibly simple, but is extremely important: salmon. Salmon, especially wild-caught Alaskan salmon, is a rich source of omega-3 fatty acids. These omega-3s have been shown in many medical studies to have powerful anti-inflammatory properties. And you know, joint pain is largely caused by inflammation of the tissues around the joints. A study from the University of Pittsburgh found that people who regularly eat salmon at least twice a week have significantly lower levels of inflammation than those who regularly eat red meat. Not only that, they also have less morning stiffness. As for me, I eat grilled salmon with steamed vegetables once a week. Sometimes I change the dish to salmon porridge, or roll salmon with lettuce, avocado, and a little brown rice. It's delicious and light on the stomach, and when I wake up the next morning, I feel noticeably lighter. Of course, if you have gout, you have to pay close attention to the dosage and preparation method. Not just eating a lot is good. From salmon, I suddenly remembered another dish, which sounds normal, but is a great help for the elderly with joint pain: avocado. Yes, avocado. This fatty fruit that many people think is easy to gain weight is actually very good for the joints. Avocados contain a lot of monounsaturated fat, the type of fat that helps reduce inflammation and is good for the heart. Not only that, avocados also contain vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that can protect connective tissue in the joints. A California nutritionist once said that if you had to choose a fruit to eat every day after the age of 60, avocado would be one of the first names to consider. I have a habit of eating avocado with a slice of whole wheat bread every morning, sprinkled with a little ground flaxseed, which is also rich in omega-3. On the mornings I eat it like this, my knee joints feel lighter, my fingers are less stiff, and I don't feel sleepy like when I eat cakes or fried foods. Especially in the summer, chill avocado and blend it with unsweetened almond milk. It's cool and healthy to drink. And you know, these dishes not only help reduce joint pain, but are also good for the skin, eyes, and memory. And when it comes to omega-3, we can't help but mention chia seeds. These tiny seeds, which seem to be just for sprinkling on smoothies or yogurt, are actually a treasure trove of nutrients. Chia seeds are full of omega-3, vegetable protein, fiber, and many minerals such as calcium and magnesium, all of which are necessary to nourish bones and joints. I read a study from the Harvard Nutrition Institute, which showed that older people who eat chia seeds regularly have higher bone density than those who do not. No need to do anything complicated, just add a spoonful of chia seeds to a glass of water or juice every morning, refrigerate for about 15 minutes and drink. The seeds will soften like jelly, delicious and easy to digest. Anyone with mild constipation should try it. From here, I want to share another dish that many people may overlook, which is turmeric. Turmeric is not only used to cook curry or braise fish, but also has a valuable active ingredient called curcumin. This active ingredient has a very strong anti-inflammatory effect, considered equivalent to some non-steroidal pain relievers, but does not cause side effects on the stomach. I once read a study at the University of Arizona. They tested curcumin for arthritis patients for 6 weeks, and found that nearly 50% of participants felt significant pain relief and more flexible joints. But curcumin in fresh turmeric is difficult to absorb, so if possible, you can use turmeric with a little black pepper. The piperine and pepper will help increase the absorption of curcumin by 20 times. I often use crushed fresh turmeric, soaked in honey, and drink a small spoon in the morning before breakfast. Sometimes when I cook pumpkin soup, I also add a slice of turmeric. Turmeric is also good for the liver, helps digestion, so it is true that it both cures joints and nourishes the body. At this point, some people are probably thinking, why are these all healthy dishes, nothing appealing? But don't jump to that conclusion. Because the next dish I want to share is an extremely familiar dish in family meals: bone broth soup. This bone broth soup with vegetables, onions, garlic, a little carrot, seems like just a comforting dish on cold days, but it is actually a rich source of natural collagen for joints. When beef bones, chicken bones, especially cartilage, are simmered for a long time, it will release amino acids such as glycine and proline. These are important components of cartilage. In addition, bone broth also contains chondroitin sulfate and glucosamine, two substances commonly found in joint supplements. However, this dish needs to be cooked for a long time, at least 6 to 8 hours to extract all the nutrients, so I often use an electric pressure cooker, simmer it in the evening, and can be used the next morning. But remember, when making this dish, you should remove all the fat floating on top to avoid increasing cholesterol. You can add a little ginger to make it more fragrant and help with digestion. For those who are vegetarians or limit meat, you can completely replace it with broth made from seaweed and shiitake mushrooms. Although it does not contain collagen, it is rich in minerals that help strengthen bones. So we have reviewed a few familiar dishes that have a hidden power in helping to reduce joint pain every morning. From salmon, avocado, chia seeds, turmeric to bone broth, all have in common the fact that they support anti-inflammation and nourish joints. But it doesn't stop there. Because there are other dishes which sound more strange, less noticed, but bring surprising effects. And I look forward to continuing to share with you in the next part. After mentioning familiar dishes together, I believe that in each person's heart, there is a small hope that we can absolutely do something to wake up with less pain and more comfort every morning. No need to wait for medicine, no need to wait for someone else to do it, but with our own hands, from our daily meals. And that is really worth starting, right? Now let's continue. I want to tell you about a fruit that when I was young, I used to not pay much attention to because I thought it was too sour. Eating it would make my stomach churn. But at this age, the more I read and try it, the more I realize its value. That is pineapple. Pineapple is a juicy, sweet, and sour fruit, but the precious thing is, pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain. The name sounds strange, but bromelain is a natural anti-inflammatory, helps break down protein and aids digestion. In particular, bromelain has the effect of reducing swelling and pain in joints, especially for people with knee arthritis or chronic back pain. A study published in the journal Alternative Medicine Review has shown that bromelain is as effective as the pain reliever diclofenac, but does not have a negative effect on the stomach. That completely changed my view of pineapple. Now, every 2 days, I squeeze fresh pineapple juice, dilute it with filtered water, and drink it after breakfast or lunch. Those who are afraid of stomach ulcers can eat it with yogurt, or slice it and mix it with lettuce. Adding a few drops of lemon juice, it becomes a light salad that is good for the joints. But remember not to eat pineapple on an empty stomach or if you have a stomach ulcer, because the high acidity can cause discomfort. Speaking of this, I suddenly remember a very small nut, once forgotten but then emerged as a superfood, that is walnuts. Every time I hear someone mention walnuts, I think of the image of old people in Oregon, USA, where the cold, humid climate often affects bones and joints. Yet many elderly people there still maintain good mobility, thanks to the habit of eating walnuts every day. Because walnuts contain a lot of omega-3, vitamin E, and powerful antioxidants that help protect joint cells, slowing down the aging process of cartilage. In addition, walnuts also contain polyphenol, a plant compound that can reduce inflammation and fight oxidative stress, two important factors that cause joint problems. I often keep a jar of lightly roasted walnuts on hand, and every morning I take a few nuts and eat them with oatmeal or yogurt. Sometimes I grind them and mix them into porridge or cook them with pumpkin soup, both rich and fatty and help relieve joint pain. If you have digestive problems or have difficulty chewing, you can grind them and add them to smoothies. The effect is still the same. In addition, I also want to introduce a dish that few people think is related to joints: mushrooms. Especially dried maitake or shiitake mushrooms. These mushrooms not only help strengthen the immune system, but also contain a lot of ergothioneine, a powerful antioxidant that can reduce inflammation in the tissues around the joints. A study at the University of Pennsylvania has shown that ergothioneine in mushrooms can protect cartilage cells from free radical attacks, which are the culprits that cause osteoarthritis in the elderly. I have a habit of cooking mushroom soup every week using shiitake mushrooms, king oyster mushrooms, straw mushrooms cooked with a little seaweed and tofu. This dish is light, easy to digest, and also soothes the feeling of pain in the joints every morning. Especially on days when the weather changes, joints are easily stiff. Eating this dish at night makes the next morning feel much lighter. And when it comes to light dishes that help soothe arthritis, we cannot fail to mention green tea. I know many of us are used to drinking coffee in the morning, but if our joints are often sore, maybe we should try changing it at least a few days a week. Because green tea contains a very powerful antioxidant called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, which has anti-inflammatory effects and prevents cartilage damage. A study at Case Western Reserve University in Ohio tested EGCG on cartilage tissue and found that it can inhibit cartilage destruction in diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis. I'm not too fussy. I simply brew a pot of green tea in the morning, add a few slices of ginger or a few drops of lemon. It's refreshing and light on the stomach, and it also helps support the joints. Especially if I combine it with a light 15-minute walk after breakfast, that feeling is very pleasant and refreshing. Someone asked me, does drinking tea really help relieve joint pain, or is it just a feeling? I don't dare say it's miraculous, but I know one thing for sure: what we put into our bodies every day contributes to that feeling of pain or no pain. It may not happen in a day or two, but after a few weeks, a few months, we will see the change. It's like taking care of a plant. Water it today, tomorrow it won't grow, but a few weeks later, there will be new leaves, there will be flowers. Now, I want to share another food that many of us are probably eating, but have not paid attention to its special benefits for bones and joints. That is pomegranate. Yes, it is the red, juicy, sweet pomegranate. Pomegranates contain a lot of polyphenol and flavonoids, compounds that are powerful anti-inflammatory. In addition, a study at Case Western Reserve University also showed that pomegranate extract can slow cartilage degeneration and reduce arthritis. This is really interesting, because pomegranates are not only good for joints, but also good for the heart, blood pressure, and skin. I often buy pure, unsweetened pomegranate juice, then mix it with filtered water and drink it gradually during the day. Some days, I separate the pomegranate seeds and mix them with Greek yogurt and a few walnuts, making an afternoon snack that is both delicious and good for joints. And think about it, instead of eating cookies and snacks, if you choose something healthy like this, your body will definitely thank you. And speaking of yogurt, I also want to mention the role of probiotics in improving inflammation in general. When the gut is healthy, the immune system works better, thereby reducing inflammatory reactions in the body, including inflammation in the joints. Therefore, maintaining a healthy digestive system also indirectly helps reduce joint pain. We have gone through many more dishes that can support joints, from pineapple, walnuts, mushrooms, green tea, to pomegranate and yogurt. Each dish has its own effect, but if combined harmoniously in the daily diet, it will create a long-term positive impact. And most importantly, it is the feeling of waking up every morning without being tormented by pain, no longer having to massage before daring to get out of bed. That feeling only those who have had joint pain understand how precious it is. But wait, there are still a few foods that I want to share, and among them, there is one that the doctor at the Mayo Clinic once advised me to prioritize because it not only helps reduce arthritis, but can also naturally prevent cartilage aging. Do you want to know what it is? Thank you for patiently accompanying me until now. I believe that if we have come this far together, there must have been some change in each of our hearts. Even if it is just a small thought, a gentle intention that, it turns out that I can help myself reduce pain every morning with very familiar foods. And that is the first step of recovery, starting with awareness, then slowly turning into action. Now, as I promised, I want to share a special food that the doctor at the Mayo Clinic once emphasized to me: soybeans and soy products such as tofu, soy milk, or miso. At first, I was a bit skeptical because I heard that soybeans contain hormones, afraid of affecting the elderly. But in fact, if used in moderation and properly, soybeans are a great gift for those who are suffering from arthritis, especially rheumatoid arthritis. Soybeans contain isoflavones, a natural form of phytoestrogen, which helps reduce inflammation and joint pain. A study at the University of Oklahoma School of Medicine showed that women who ate 40 g of soy protein per day had significantly lower levels of inflammation than the group that did not eat. And the special thing is, you don't need to eat too much. A breakfast of unsweetened soy milk or a lunch of lightly braised tofu may be enough to start feeling the difference. I have a habit of making miso soup with seaweed, adding a few pieces of soft tofu, eating it on cold evenings, feeling like my body is warming up, my joints are no longer stiff. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but since I've maintained that habit, I sleep better, less often waking up in the middle of the night because of back pain or numb legs. Sometimes, it's the simple things that create the most lasting changes. Besides soybeans, there is a dish that I almost never skip during the week: red beets. Some people say beets are too sweet, afraid of high sugar. But in fact, beets contain a lot of betalan, a very strong anti-inflammatory substance, which also helps increase blood circulation to the joints. When the joints are fully nourished, they will be more flexible, less painful every time I move, especially in the morning when I just wake up. My body is still sluggish. I often boil beets and then chop them into salads, or blend them with carrots and apples to make juice. The red-purple color of beets is not only beautiful, but also a sign of a large amount of natural antioxidants, which help protect joint tissue from being destroyed over time. Especially at this age, when everything in the body tends to slow down and weaken, food sources with the ability to protect cells like this are even more valuable. Then, sometimes, I choose a gentler way, returning to daily vegetable soups. And among them, there is a vegetable that I especially trust: kale. This vegetable is popular in many places in the U.S., especially in states like California, where many elderly people are very concerned about bone and joint health. Kale has a high amount of calcium and vitamin K, which helps strengthen bones and support connective tissue around joints. In addition, it also contains a large amount of anti-inflammatory substances such as quercetin and camphorol, substances that are not unfamiliar with studies on osteoarthritis. If you can't find kale, you can substitute spinach or broccoli, which are also great for your joints. I often boil them or lightly sauté them in olive oil, an oil I use almost every day because of its natural anti-inflammatory properties. The oleocanthal and extra virgin olive oil is said to have the same effect as ibuprofen, helping to soothe the aches and pains in your knees, hips, and shoulders. Some people say, it's just cooking oil, but it can affect your joints? And it's true. A spoonful of good oil a day, used correctly, may be the key to keeping your joints from getting more inflamed. And in addition to the foods I've mentioned, there's something else I really believe in: patience. There's no food that will make your joint pain go away after just one meal. But if you stick with it consistently and trust what you're eating, your body will respond, quietly but clearly. Maybe it's waking up one morning without the creaking in your knees. Maybe it's getting up from a chair one afternoon without having to hold on to the armrests. Maybe it's sleeping soundly at night without tossing and turning because of a sore back. I remember once walking in a small park in Florida. I started talking to an 82-year-old man who was practicing Tai Chi. He said, "There is no secret, just eat right, live regularly, and don't let the pain make you give up." Hearing that, I laughed, because it turns out that simple thing is the truth for many of us. Now, before ending today's conversation, I want to look back with you a bit. We have talked about many foods, from fish, nuts, tubers, fruits, to drinks like green tea. Each dish plays a small part in the journey to relieve joint pain every morning. And I hope you will not feel overwhelmed or pressured. Choose one or two dishes that you are most familiar with, starting today. Then gradually, add this dish, reduce that dish. The important thing is not to change too quickly, but to change sustainably. If you have ever tried a dish and found it effective, don't hesitate to share it in the comments section so everyone can learn from each other. Or if you have any questions or want me to share more recipes suitable for people with joint pain, feel free to say so. We are here to be healthier and happier together, day by day. If you find this video useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming topics, because I believe that old age is not the time to accept living with pain, but the time to regain initiative, ease, and peace in every step. Wishing you a new day without joint pain, and waking up every morning feeling healthy and happy, the true meaning of a proud old age. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos.